Our next speaker is Jack Dowling, and he is the CEO of Votum Technology. And Jack is going to talk about a project by a leading oilfield services and equipment company that was used to help improve materials management. So, Jack, you now have control of the presentation.
Okay, great. First of all, I'd like to thank RFID Journal and Omni-ID for sponsoring my piece of this. And I guess I'd like to jump right in. And first of all, hold one second. Votum is a solutions provider around RFID, GPS, mobility, and communications. And we sell most of the providers in RFID, most of the large providers of RFID, and in each of the most commonly used frequency ranges. We've done low frequency projects, we've done high frequency projects, ultra high frequency projects, and active projects, all in the oil and gas industry. We also carry GPS products, which allow us to track high dollar shipments. By putting devices in pallets, we can track shipping containers using GPS devices, and we have fleet management solutions. Your typical usages of GPS. So when we go into work with a client, we're kind of looking at their needs from end to end, and what typically drives the decision making around what technology would be selected. It's first of all driven by the read distance. How far away do you need to be able to detect the tag? But it's also driven by a number of other things too. As Steve pointed out earlier, what kind of materials are you trying to read through, and what kind of environment you can operate in. But we can and we have tracked things anywhere from an inch to clean around the planet, and then we provide hardened mobile devices and sensors that we attach to active RFID tags and communications. Now, with passive, as you're all aware, passive tags, there are tags that we can read out to potentially 45 feet, and there are and then there are active tags that we can read up to a mile away. When we go in to look at an opportunity, again, read range drives a lot of the decision making, and passive is typically utilized with fixed readers and portals, where read ranges are typically in the 15 feet or less range, and then with handheld mobile devices. And there are some tags you can read out to like 30 feet with some of today's handheld devices. And then active technology, we use it for equipment yards. We use it for emergency mustering in offshore rigs, refineries, chem plants, mines. And then again, GPS for tracking things, from in oil and gas industry, you'll operate in a lot of environments where cell phone coverage isn't adequate. So we offer cell phone coverage, and we offer satellite coverage, and then we offer solutions that will use a cell phone coverage if it's available, and then it'll swap the satellite coverage if cell phones aren't available. And then we offer software packages to run on these mobility devices for tracking things. And we track equipment, products, and people. So how Votum typically works is, if you look at our senior principals, most of us have been CIOs in big multi-billion-dollar companies, and we typically look at this technology the way insiders would within a company. Our typical engagement, we generally start at the C-level within our clients and help them understand strategically how to use this technology to make their company more efficient, to create new markets and opportunities, or to gain a competitive advantage on their competitors. And we help the senior executives understand how this technology can be used and what the ROI looks like for each of the potential opportunities within their companies. And usually we do that on a division-by-division basis. We typically work with them. I mean, any engagement we get involved in where we're going to potentially deploy this this technology, the first thing we'll ask for are the process maps for the processes that we're going to be working with. If they don't exist, we create them. And we do a lot of Lean Six Sigma work with our clients. And you know, where they don't have that, then we utilize it as best we can for the selected area. Typically, anytime you're going to implement new technology in an area, it's going to require re-engineering because it's going to change the business process that people utilize to do their jobs. And so we'll remap what it's going to look like once the technologies are implemented. And then we obviously do the system integration, which is bringing the software integrated to the legacy systems, and then we provide support, and that's from helping the client you know, implement true three-tiered help desks within their environment if they don't have that, so they can provide adequate support for GPS, RF, and mobility solutions. And then one of the things that's becoming, I think, a much bigger part of this business, and it's genuinely extending the return on investment that clients get from this technology, is performing analytics on the data. These technologies we're talking about, and specifically RFID, allows us to collect data in ways that we've never collected it before. And it allows us to collect it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it provides opportunities for process improvements that we've never had before because there's much more data collected on the events that are taking place within a client's business. And so what we help our clients do is collect the data that will be appropriate for analysis, and over a period of time we'll work with them to collect the data, and then we'll perform analytics on that data, and it yields genuinely surprising results about the processes and even you know, how their customers potentially work with them and how that can be improved. So Vodum serves a number of industries and has served oil and gas for more than 6 years. And somebody asked the question, you know, do you have case studies for oil and gas? Well, you know, that was the first vertical we went into, and we've done projects continuously for 6 years. And again, we've done them in low frequency, high frequency, ultra high frequency, and a number of different active technologies, as well as GPS. We've done lots of mobility rollouts and provided the software to go with that. So on this specific project, let me first start out by telling you this is an oil and gas application, and it's upstream. And upstream is you know, getting the product out of the ground. This deals with onshore equipment, field equipment, above ground, and the client is a multi-billion-dollar company. And this project dealt with tens of thousands of pieces of equipment all across the United States and Canada. Again, the goals with the client were to maximize return on investment, to improve their internal processes, and to gain a competitive advantage. So they wanted to increase utilization of assets in the oilfield services industry. I mean, in any rental industry, utilization is king. The more you can use the equipment, the more you can bring it in off a lease, recondition it, and get it back out into the field again and know when it's going to come off so you can repeat that process, the more money you're going to make. I mean, it's just that simple. And there aren't very many industries out there that do that very effectively right now unless they use some of these technologies that I discussed previously. It's just, it's difficult to do. And, you know, across industry, there are equipment sits idle way too much, and it costs these leasing companies a lot of money. So there's a huge opportunity here, not just in oilfield services, but across any industries that use rental equipment. And then they wanted to increase their asset data reliability through automation. I mean, human beings are terrible data collectors. They make transposition errors. They'll describe the asset incorrectly, and so asset databases are not usually very accurate. But by using RF technology, when you tag an asset and you associate the serial number and make sure that you get the description of that asset correctly in your asset database, from that point forward, you're going to read it with RFID, and you're going to know what that asset is every time you read it, and you're going to get it accurately. Previously, what happened, I mean, it's still going on a lot, and not just in the oil and gas industry, but across industry as a whole. People are going out there with a pen and paper and collecting serial numbers and writing down what the device is. I'm sure you can understand that's highly ineffective. And then the other thing that's going on, I mean, I'm sure everybody on the phone knows what happened in the Gulf last year, and you know, long before that took place, equipment maintenance was a big issue for producers. Equipment has to be maintained, and by using this technology, you can tie the maintenance of equipment to the specific piece of equipment, right down to the seals that were replaced in the equipment. Not only that, but you can tell them how old the seals were when they were put in the equipment, and then you can provide that information electronically to the client, so that the client has a high degree of certainty that the equipment that's being utilized is being maintained effectively. And that's going to become more and more critical as we go forward, and it's a very big competitive issue in oil and gas. The companies that do that effectively, I think, are going to broaden their opportunities, and the ones that don't are going to lose business. They also wanted to improve the processes by collecting more in-depth data, and this is back to the issue of performing analytics. You know, when you're doing, if you're a Six Sigma company or you're doing any kind of process improvements, your ability to improve, you can't improve if you don't measure it. You can't improve it. There's no way for you to know if your change has actually made an improvement if you're not measuring what you do. And so collecting more data creates a richer metrics database and allows you to perform better process improvement as a result of that. And then they were looking to improve their inventory control. I mean, this is a real business. So the better you control your inventory, the more money you're going to make. It's really that simple. And then the other thing that clients are interested in when they're leasing equipment from somebody is the history of utilization. They want to know, you know, what the device has been used for in the past, how old it is, you know, what kind of environments it's been in, what kind of maintenance has been performed on it, what repairs have been done, and then they want to see certifications for each asset. So if you look through this, I mean, this is a pretty standard project that we did. You know, we performed a detailed walkthrough of existing business process flows, as I discussed earlier, and then we redesigned the business process flows to support the new goals and objectives. And when you do this, you'll actually use these new process flows to train the people in the field on how to use the new technology. I mean, you know, if you look historically about why CIOs get fired, in many instances they fail in one key point of a technology deployment. If you deploy new technology and you don't train people on the new process, if they can't see the new process in their mind, they'll be executing the old process on the new technology. And you can implement the greatest system in the world, but if they try to do the job the way they used to do it before the new system was implemented, the deployment will be deemed a failure. And it's totally unnecessary for that to happen. And the way you should get around that is by doing detailed process workflows of the new process and training people off of them. And then the next step really is to create use cases that represent those new business process flows. By creating use cases and getting them signed off by the client, it's very clear to you and the client what it is you're going to actually deliver. And you know, the more detailed the use case, the better chance you have of getting it right. And you know, as a former CIO, I can't tell you how rankling it is to work with a vendor and have them deliver, or what they deliver is either not on spec, not on time, or over budget. You know, those things can cost you your job, and it's the reason you'll find CIOs be as prickly as they are with vendors, because many vendors don't do any of those, much less all of them. So identifying appropriate technology supports the client's goals at a reasonable price point. Now we're back to the whole discussion around the differing types of RFID versus, you know, passive versus active versus GPS, or hardened mobile devices with GPS in them. There's a lot of different ways to slice and dice this when you're deploying these technologies. I've had many clients, say, gee, I want to put GPS devices on everything, and they have thousands of devices, and they find out very quickly that's not affordable. But yet, if you're delivering things to a field location and you're using RFID and you're using a hardened mobile device with software on it, when you deliver that device to the field, you can actually mark the GPS location of where the device was delivered, and you know where it is. And those are all the things that you have to work through with clients to help them understand the different ways that this technology can be used effectively together, and to be able to do it at a price point that makes sense. And then you want to select equipment that best supports the new business processes. Again, using GPS in a facility doesn't make much sense unless it's a gigantic facility. And for the most part, it doesn't make sense at all. You want to use GPS on equipment that's going to leave. Within a facility, if it's huge and it's an equipment yard, you might want to use active technology, because with RTLS systems, you can pinpoint specifically where a piece of equipment is. But I'll also tell you that you can do a really good job with that just with good processes and excellent excellent RFID solutions. So now when you get down to the technology selection, I want to talk specifically about this engagement and what led us to the selection that we got to, so you can help, so you can better understand how these decisions are made. We picked Gen 2 UHF technology, and the reason we picked it is because low frequency read range. I mean, I've gotten a foot out of low frequency, and that's the best I've ever gotten out of it. And that's a deployed product. A deployed project, and believe me, we had to custom design the antenna to make that possible. HF is probably, is maybe twice that, but UHF you can read out to 15 feet. Depending on the tag, there are tags that you can read, at 30 feet or more. But specifically, what you have to do is match you have to match the tags. You have to deliver tags that have a read range that are acceptable for the application. In this instance, some of these tags are going to be on tall devices that would be 15 feet tall, so we needed to be able to read the tags. This is also a very harsh environment, high UV exposure, corrosive chemicals, heavy impacts, and extreme temperatures. We did impact tests using a 5-pound sledgehammer and repeated blows, and yet some of these tags have taken more abuse in the field than our sledgehammer test. So you have to realize the oil and gas industry is a very tough industry when it comes to putting tags on the equipment. So you have to select tags that are tough. And in this instance, we use the Omni-ID Adept 400, and this is a metal tag. I mean, it's tough as nails, and you can see the slit on the bottom of it in this picture. We strapped it on with metal straps, and the tag's not coming off. It's on there, and it's tough as nails. It can take a beating. You also have to figure out where to mount it so that A, it can be seen and read by the users, and yet be in enough of a protected position where it's not pulled off by heavy equipment. And again, most of these pieces of equipment are very, very heavy, so just picking them up with a strap can pull a tag off if you're not smart about where you put it. And again, you work with your clients to find places to mount these tags where they won't be pulled off. Now, one of the things, we also sell RFID technology. I mean, we sell barcode technologies, and one of the things that drove us to use RFID in this instance, and not like a direct parts marking, like we spray on epoxy 2D barcodes, and we arc weld on 2D barcodes onto equipment. But the problem is most of this equipment, this equipment is going into really harsh environments. So first of all, they use very corrosive chemicals to take off the paint and the rust, and they'll sandblast it, and then they're going to paint it. Well, as soon as you paint over a barcode, you're not going to have very good success in reading it. And so again, that's another one of the things that drives you towards using RFID. So again, I think again, looking at the equipment, understanding what kind of a maintenance regimen the equipment goes through, understanding where you can place the tags, and using tags that are hardy enough like this Omni-ID tag, are drivers for what you use in the oil and gas industry. The next step we had to do after we selected the hardened mobile devices that we were going to use to read the tags and the tags themselves and the attachment method for the tags was to deliver software that would support the use cases. And in this instance, that's what was done. And again, you know, the use cases need to directly reflect the business processes that you laid out. And then, of course, the software has to be loaded on the hardened mobile devices. And then you've got to deliver them to the field. You've got to train the people in the field on how to use those handheld devices. And don't underestimate that. You know, some of these people have never used technology like this. Then on the other hand, there are people with smartphones out there, and using one of these devices is a no-brainer to them. So it'll be a mixed bag depending on the person. And then the tags and the mounting materials have to be delivered, and people have to be trained how to mount those tags. And one of the things I tell you is that you absolutely have to do a pilot project when you do these engagements, because just because everybody thinks they know the solution and what it needs to look like and how it's going to work, you're going to run into kinks. You're going to run into kinks on, you know, some of the things that Steve talked to earlier. You're going to run into interference issues. You're going to run into tag mounting issues. You're going to run into software issues, you know, things that they're doing that no matter what didn't quite get defined exactly as how they need to occur. And all those things need to get worked out during your pilot phase. And then you need to create appropriate support structures required for a nationwide or a global rollout, which we do both. And these support structures need to obviously involve, you know, a help desk, and a help desk that's capable of responding. And it's generally a three-tier help desk, which, you know, first tier answers the question, second tier figures out what the problem is, and then if it's a software or hardware problem, the third tier are the vendors themselves. And then the other thing we do is for fixed devices, we typically do network management with those devices. So we'll put an agent running on the device, and we'll put a drop-in product into the NOC of the company that we're working with, and then they can watch just like they would watch a switch or a router on the network. They can watch the RFID readers. And we really don't deploy fixed devices without doing this, because if you don't, you can't tell when they're up or down. And if they don't have a NOC, we'll provide the NOC for them. And if they don't want to do the help desk internally, we'll do it externally. And then we perform detailed analysis on the data that's collected. And in this instance, we're just starting to really collect this data, and you need months of data for this to start to make sense. I mean, you're trending. Understand, you're using this as metrics information. So you're collecting it, and then you're looking for anomalies, and you're looking for trends. And you know, analytics it's really an industry all unto itself, and you need to have, I think, deep experience in IT to understand, you know, or in the analytics field to understand how to do that effectively. So I think that's the end of my presentation, and I'm ready to take questions.
Okay, thanks very much. We do have some questions,
okay.
And we have a little bit of time. So the first question is, what devices do you use for mobile reading? It seems that an iPad or an iPhone would be too fragile.
Well, you know, we typically use really industrial strength devices, and you know, we carry most of the providers of these hardened devices. So, you know, it all depends on the application. I mean, you know, obviously companies like Intermec and Motorola are prime providers of these types of technologies. We use them and a number of others, and more and more what you're starting to see is, you know, you're starting to see people looking to provide software solutions that run on, for instance, on Android. And I think you're going to see more and more devices out there that are tablet-like in nature, maybe with a 7-inch screen. Today, you know, hardened mobile devices have been used in the supply chain industry for many years. They're used in every grocery store that you go to, and, you know, most clothing stores. And for most of those applications, the applications are simple enough to use those small screens. But when you get to field services, it can be advantageous to have a bigger screen because there's a lot of data that has to be put in. You wind up transitioning across so many screens, you almost lose track of what you're doing. So again, what drives it is the application itself and what it's going to look like and what you're requiring the end user to do on the screen. And again, I have an iPad and I have it in a hardened holder called an OtterBox holder, and that's, I think, as tough as you're going to get an iPad. But I think if somebody repeatedly drops it out of the front seat of a truck that's fairly high up, you're going to break it. And so, we have mobile devices that are very, very tough, all the way out to hardened mobile devices that are being used in the battlefield in Afghanistan. And, for those, I think you can take a run and start and slam them off the ground and the screen won't even blink. So it depends on what you're looking for, what the requirements are, but that's how you make the decisions right there. And you just, you start with a simple, you look at the software and you look at the business process, then you look at what it's likely to experience and you pick one that's hardened enough. Again, because for the most part, the more hardened it is, the more you'll pay for it. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Does Omni-ID have any UHF tags that can survive downhole applications?
Well, I'll tell you, I probably let Omni-ID answer that, but just between you, me, and the gatepost, there are tags that you can put on. Let me say this: we have solutions for drill pipe, and we have solutions for tubing. We have solutions for casing. So, we do all of those, and that's really what goes down the hole. We also have solutions for wireline tools. And so, the person asking the question, if you want to contact me, we can talk about the details around each one of those. It's a challenging environment. Not only is there a lot of vibration, but it's hot, and it's a rugged environment. But yes, there are tags available on the marketplace that can be put down hole. Contact me and we'll talk through the details.
Okay. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions. Jack, thank you very much. We appreciate your taking the time to speak today.
Okay, you bet. Thank you.
Okay.
To make a tag. We also have what's called the DuraPlug, and this is a patent pending chip that we've designed. It actually just taps in